Yes, it's the big Hall of Fame debate show that airs tonight at 9 Eastern on MLB Network. Brian Kenny, Chris Russo, Tom Verducci, Mike Lowell, and Ron Darling. Very different perspectives. We'll discuss the class of 2018, including, for me at least, a slam dunk reliever that should have been in 2 years ago. Trevor Hoffman's candidacy is being discussed once again, and the panel has very different ideas as to how it'll go for Trevor, who I think you agree with me. I mean, we've got him in the building. But there are those that feel differently somehow, and it was one of the things that they discussed on the roundtable tonight.
I mean, I can see having different views on it, but you come to the same conclusion, that he's in the building. He gets in Cooperstown.
Yeah.
You might not like certain things or whatever, but at the end of the day, I would think you would get there. I don't understand you don't put him in the Hall of Fame.
There are those that feel like the role of a reliever has to be viewed differently in Cooperstown. Some people discount it entirely for being a Hall of Fame role. So what are you going to do? You're going to take Goose Gossage and Raleigh Fingers and Bruce Sutter out of the building? And by the way, if those are your guys, in Dennis Eckersley, and we could count others in that mix as well, Trevor's career is very comparable to Goose Gossage's career. So it took Goose a little longer to get in the building. But you cannot tell me that a guy who was the premier closer in his league for a decade shouldn't be a first ballot Hall of Famer,
first ballot,
let alone getting in on his third try, which is what he's at in 2018. Look, he was the first to 600 saves, and I know that everybody feels differently about him versus Mariano Rivera. To me, you don't compare the two. They both should get in.
He's getting the Tim Raines treatment because Ricky Henderson was so great. All of a sudden, Hoffman's not at that level. Look, the other thing here, you talked about relievers or closers. Look, there's a DH. It's a position, just like designated hitter. I argue, look, we've had the DH in baseball for almost 40-some years.
Right.
Eventually, or over 40 years. Eventually, that's a position. Get it to your mind.
Yeah.
What we're seeing now in baseball is not an evolution that they've gone to the bullpen. They've always had that guy at the end of the pen. He should be put into Cooperstown. Ken Rosenthal, what you got, man?
I agree with you guys, and I vote for Trevor Hoffman. I voted for closers in the past, and Harold, you're absolutely right. Players should not be penalized for the position that they play. Now, the DH is a little bit different because if you're talking about value, that player is not contributing defensive value. But if you're the best all-time, or one of the best all-time, at your position, including DH, you're a Hall of Famer. Simple as that. The only issue with Hoffman, and it's not really an issue with him per se, but if you look at statistics and compare them, if Hoffman goes in, then Billy Wagner really should go in too. Billy Wagner has some statistics, strikeouts in particular, that are even better than Trevor Hoffman's.
I mean,
so
you could make that case, but here's the thing with playing the comp game. It gets a little dicey, as you know, Kenny, and in closers it does too. Trevor Hoffman has twice as many saves as Goose Gossage, right? Yeah. Different roles. I get it at times, like Goose was a setup guy later in his career. He wasn't always the guy that got the ball for a 3-out save in the ninth. But the careers are comparable. The big difference there is Goose Gossage spent a lot of time on a dominant Yankee team. So that gets into the mind of the New York writers and the New York radio talk show screamers and yellers like what we're about to hear from Christopher Russo.
Look at the Hall of Famers who are relievers in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Fingers, Eckersley, Mariano, Gossage. Hoffman's not nearly as good as those guys. No way.
I agree.
Not nearly as good. He's not as good as Fingers. Oh, he's not as good as Raleigh Fingers. Raleigh Fingers pitched 2 in the third
Raleigh Fingers is in and having a cocktail on the Otesaga porch. He's fine. He's in.
No, I understand, but that's my point, though. The people who are in the Hall of Fame as relief pitchers are much better than Hoffman, who's trying to get in the Hall of Fame now.
But he's in that handful.
You don't buy into the longevity. Because for that, Tony Perez shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
You can make that argument.
But where are you going to go in the future when guys are doing 55 innings?
I'm going to have to.
Guys are doing 55 innings.
I'm going to have to fight that at the time.
Admittedly, Fingers was doing 115 innings. Even Gossage has 95, 100 innings. Nobody's doing that.
Okay,
it's not happening.
Let's go a little more recent. Is Hoffman in the same argument as Eckersley? No, he's not. Eckersley's much better than Hoffman. Much better. Tom?
I don't know.
My gosh!
Well, Eckersley is a unique player, too. It's putting him in the Smoltz category. Yeah, a guy who had an amazing starter career.
But he's not in the Hall of Fame because he was a starting pitcher. He's in the Hall of Fame because he's a reliever.
Exactly.
Smoltz did both.
That's right.
But so Fingers, help me out.
No.
Is Hoffman better than Eck?
No.
Is Hoffman better than Mariano?
No.
Is Hoffman better than Gossage?
No.
You're naming the top 5
There's only
pitchers of all time.
Wait,
you missed Hoyt Wilhelm. Hoyt Wilhelm's better too.
That's 100 years
That's
ago.
all you got.
Is he better
Keep going.
Is he better than Suter? Is he better than Suter?
No, I never faced Suter.
But you saw him. Is he better than Suter, Michael?
Probably not. Probably
Those
not.
are the guys who are the Hall of Famous relief pitchers.
Yeah, but when you're talking about 30 save seasons, and again, I know I'm going back to the save stat, but for him to be closing games for
17
consistently as he did, and as far as postseason goes, for me, I look at it like extra credit. You do well like a Schilling or a Beltran, that matters a lot because you changed history, right? Pennants sometimes are won and lost on one game. But I'm not going to hold it against you in a very small sample size if the numbers don't work for you.
He bombed a couple of times. He got bombed more than once. He bombed a couple times.
Mariano had a couple of hiccups,
He's
too.
got 5 World Series championships.
I get that, but it happens. Again, I'm not going to hold it against the guy's Hall of Fame candidacy. It will enhance it if they do well.
He wrote the story on it. Remember that big thing in that side? He had a big cover. He loves him. Oh, my God.
Oh, thank goodness Verducci was on that panel. I've said that many, many times. Never felt more strongly about it than there.
My God almighty, you got jelly all over the place.
You were the one getting jelly all over the place, Russo, because it was 4 against 1, and you were on the wrong end of a bad argument.
Help me out here. Help me out.
You know what? Here's the thing. If Trevor Hoffman had spent the same career and posted the exact same numbers as a Met or a Yankee, oh, my God, Russo would be lionizing him.
My favorite, Matt, is when Chris brings up some blown save that Trevor Hoffman had in an All-Star game.
Yeah.
An All-Star game that was played before the this time it counts era.
Please. He's trying to say Scott Brocious took him deep. So what? You mean Tom Seaver never gave up a big home run? I mean, come on.
Not the one Chris ever saw.
Ay, Mato.
Well, that's the one thing that bothers you in the arguments. It's like saying, well, Mickey Mantle's better than Willie Mays. Hank Aaron's better. You know, and you're talking about if he's in the Hall of Fame, he's in the Hall of Fame. Trevor Hoffman should be a Hall of Famer. You don't sit there and go, he's better than Raleigh Fingers. Was he better than Eckersley? They all should be in.
That's
bottom
true.
line.
That's right. So make sure
right.
when you watch tonight at 9 Eastern, and Kenny, thanks, make sure you have your Twitter app open and have your comfortable shoes on, because you'll be aggravated when you watch Russo's take on Trevor Hoffman not being a Hall of Famer.